changes in the web world and marketing, and are excited to still be here today. Uniquely, we are the only marketing company actually within the home service and restoration space that offers a program that we developed that will directly calculate your ROI to the penny for what you're spending, what you're bringing in on leads, and exactly what that's translating into for your business. And just one last thing about Virtual Vision. Our mission statement is that we aspire to be the trusted liaison between the service-based industry and their customer, connecting the two in times of need to restore lives to a place of peace. That is what we aim to be as a company. All right, so let's dive in and let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to cover. If I step away from this, will you guys still be able to hear me? Okay, great. I don't like feeling chained to a podium. Okay, so just a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. We're first going to talk about different approaches specifically to marketing. And then we'll look at that all within the lens of the home service industry's unique needs as it comes to getting your services and your messages out there. And then obviously, realistically, the goal of this conversation is to talk about quick wins that you can get as a home service company, but then long-term or steady gains and successes by being consistent in the strategies that you deploy. We're going to talk about the importance of a balanced strategy between the two of those, and then we're really going to drive it home at the end with some analogies. So let's talk a little bit at the very beginning about the importance of a holistic marketing strategy or a balanced approach when it comes to marketing specifically. So the reality is that a holistic marketing strategy can tend to have some connotations. Most people say, what are you doing with marketing? And everyone doesn't want to talk about it because what you think I'm asking is how much money are you willing to give me to put into your marketing campaign? And the reality is that's really not always where it stands. There are plenty of DIY methods for marketing, and there are lots of DFY or done for you marketing methods. And we're going to talk about both of those here today. I am not here, and we are not here as a company to gatekeep things that you could be doing yourself. In fact, it only helps us serve you better when we can partner with you in those things. So talking about a balanced approach, short term, we're talking about the easily acquired jobs, the things that are going to get your phone ringing, get some jobs in the door, keep the lights on, keep your employees busy. They can be things like TPA programs. They can be things like pay-per-lead programs. They are do-it-yourself strategies a lot of the time, specifically based on exposure, just getting your name out there and keeping the lights on. These are short-term wins to be able to function effectively as a company. The other way to think of it is they are realistically, the short-term wins are the building blocks for your long-term strategies. Looking at long-term, we're talking about things like brand reputation, your ongoing strategies, or the done-for-you strategies that continue to build on the building blocks and then aim for growth. The better way of thinking of this one is it's your legacy marketing. It's what lasts beyond the initial concepts right here and now and lasts for quite a bit longer. Okay, I have to be totally transparent with you. I am not a golfer, but I talked heavily with my husband about this, who is a golfer. So I'm going to apologize in advance because if I botch any part of my analogy today, you can totally raise your hand and correct me. But I want to use the concept today of golfing in the concepts that we're talking about. And we're going to be talking about them in terms of the short game and the long game of golfing. So here's a picture. I kind of just want you to keep this in your mind as we talk today. The reality is on any given course, whether it's a world-renowned course or not, you have to have a variety of different strategies that you need to deploy as a successful golfer to be able to, get it in the hole of the lowest number. Or, that's how you become successful. Thank you for all the laughs that I'm already getting. So I want you to keep this in mind as we talk about things. You have to focus on both short game and long game to bring it full circle. And we'll come back to this throughout the presentation. So let's start by SEO. Who can tell me what SEO stands for? Yeah. Search engine optimization. So the quickest win that you can get as a company to keep the lights on and get people to know about you is understanding and recognizing your short-term SEO, or I'm sorry, your local SEO strategies. This is focused on the area that you serve, okay? So now 90% of home service companies and restoration companies are serving a specific area. I understand there are companies that when a CAT event happens, you're traveling, you're going places. But when we're talking about this short-term strategy, we are talking specifically about the primary area that you serve day in and day out. The reality is, if you are a restoration or home services company in Florida, you cannot approach your digital marketing with the intent to sell a job in California. You could if you're going to travel to an event. That's a long-term strategy. However, what you want day in and day out is what? Jobs in your local area. So when we talk about the first short-term strategy that you can have, it's focusing on your local service area. These are things like your Google business profile. Show of hands, who knows what a Google business profile is? Fantastic. Okay, for those of you who may not know, when you're searching on Google, whether you're in the maps or just searching on the bar, search for a service, the like maps listing that comes up on the right side of your screen that shows pictures, reviews, information about the business, that is your Google business profile. This is probably the most foundational item when it comes to local SEO that you can deploy. Why? Because, first of all, you can do it yourself. Google will tell you how to verify this and become a verified business within Google. Additionally, though, this is really the foundation for Google understanding what you do within your service area. This is Google saying, yes, they have completed a verification that they are an actual business in this area. We know where they exist and we know what people think about them. Which leads me to the next point of the short-term strategy, which is reviews. I cannot tell you enough how important customer reviews are for your short-term marketing strategy. I always say when I speak places, there are 3 things that Google cares about most. Are you who you say you are? Do you do what you say you do? And third, but most important, do people actually like you? Hugely important details. And if you can focus on nothing else today, take those 3 things away from this. Reviews are huge. And then the next piece of that is your local business directories. This is things like ensuring that you're listed not only on Google, but on other business directories. A lot of the time, depending on your community, every single community tends to have its own local directory. Think of your chamber, think of local associations. Making sure that you are lined up and that the information that's presented on those directories, or otherwise sometimes called citations, is accurate, making sure that it's accurate information. And then finally, all of this comes down to your brand trustworthiness. Now, again, brand trustworthiness is something that takes a long time to build, but on the short term, you can do something every single day to instill brand trustworthiness. I guess my little plug here is that I'm honored that I get to have a column and write for R&R every month in their online magazine. And this month, which I believe the issue that's released here at the show has a printed copy of an article that I published specifically about building trustworthiness as a brand within your area. So if you have a chance, go read that. This is a really big deal. Why? Because we have seen, doing this since 1997, we have seen lots of companies who have great rankings on Google Business Profile, who have great reviews. But when we implement long-term and short-term marketing strategies for them, it just might not perform. What does that generally come down to? there's something in their area that causes that company to not be trusted by their local area. And when you start to dig around, you can find that there's something in their brand reputation in their area that's causing those short-term wins to not perform. So moving on a little bit further. So local SEO, important to note, every single thing that I said in there, your Google business profile, your reviews, your business directories, your brand trustworthiness, all of that cost zero money for you to put into place, but it is probably the most foundational thing that you can put into place. The next piece is paid marketing. Now, this is kind of where some people tend to tense up. No one wants to spend loads of money on marketing, but it is a part of a holistic marketing strategy. The reason for this is that paid marketing are those low-hanging fruit that you can grasp at to be able to get some business in your door while you build your long-term strategy. And we'll talk about why that's important a little bit more here shortly. So there's a couple different things here. The first, in short-term paid marketing strategies, there are like well-known ones. Obviously, PPC, who knows what that means? Pay-per-click, awesome. Yes, pay-per-click is a huge one. And there are different types of pay-per-click campaigns. You can have branded pay-per-click campaigns, which are not focused on leads, but are focused on your actual business and your reputation, or you can have lead-focused campaigns. But with PPC, you don't have quite as much control over what's actually happening with those leads as you're paying for those clicks. That's why we generally look at the easiest short-term strategy is local focused pay-per-lead strategies. Pay-per-lead gives you the ability to have quite a bit more control over the leads that are coming in your door and what actually happens to them. They can tend to cost a little bit more upfront versus like, you know, a $2 click. Just pulling numbers out of my head here, but you do get a lot more control over them, because if it's not a legitimate lead, we can dispute that for you, or you can dispute it for yourself and get that money back. So the paid marketing strategies, when we talk about those things, 9 times out of 10, those are the things that we think of for paid marketing, specifically because paid marketing brings the funnel in a little bit faster. Let me just try and replug this in here. I think I bumped it. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, moving on. The next short-term strategy is a very easy win for most people. It's a website. Why is this important? Most people think, gosh, websites cost a lot of money to develop them right. They can, yes. However, your website is probably going to be your cheapest long-term paid employee that's constantly working for you 24/7. So it's important to look at a website with that mindset specifically. It is quite literally the first impression that someone will get of your business and decide if they want to move forward with you. And it's a very quick, short-term strategy to put into place. There are lots of things that you can add to long-term strategies when it comes to websites. We'll talk about them here shortly. However, there are foundational items with a website that need to be set up to make sure that they are quick win strategies for you. Basic SEO optimization, that's going to be the first one. The second one is just building the foundation of your website and having that there for you, and making sure that Google knows your website exists. You have to tell Google your website exists. And then following new best practices, specifically as it relates to websites, to make sure that you are setting things up for success. Google has a lot of best practices that really need to be in place for a website to perform well, both paid, through paid marketing, and through organics. You could have the best website in the world, but if it's really slow on performance and isn't following best practices, no one's going to know how to find you, including Google. So looking at that, it's very, very important. I want to give a couple examples here quick of some case studies of quick win strategies for companies that were put into place and provided some good results for them. This first one is a Texas-based restoration company that we worked with. You can see prior to that August 19th date, they were ranking for absolutely 0 keywords on Google. What does that actually translate to? They weren't showing up. No one was able to find them. We looked at setting up their best practices with SEO as Google sees them. And while this doesn't usually happen as quickly as you see it on this graph, you can see literally within about 3 days of those strategies being implemented, they were immediately boosted back up to show that they would start ranking for up to 140 keywords. That's a huge leap just because they implemented best practices for SEO with Google. Here's another one. This one was actually very, very recent, within the last month, with a Kentucky-based restoration company that we work with. They were struggling. They experienced a Google algorithm hit, which means Google released an update, and they were one of the websites that just saw a drop from that. We'll talk a little bit about Google algorithm updates and the importance of them and understanding how to address them. However, we knew that we needed to reapproach what was happening on their website, and we went back and looked at refocusing on local SEO best practices that had just been released by Google. And within a matter of just a couple weeks, they saw this drastic uptick in their website traffic. I went ahead and put a QR code here. In April, I was able to speak at the experience in Chattanooga, and I specifically talked about the top 5 questions that people ask about SEO. So if you scan this QR code, it'll lead you to a private YouTube link of a recording of that session so that you can watch it just whenever you have time. The reality is there's a lot of details related to SEO. I literally could spend the entire time talking about it, and I did. Oh, good. I hear some of you turning it on. That's great. So save that link for later. We could talk forever about SEO. The reality is it's a very important and a very complex topic when it's done correctly. So this will kind of walk you through some high-level details of that so that you can watch it at your leisure. Okay, so then I did promise you that we were going to talk in each session about the do-it-yourself and the done-for-you details of both your short game and your long game. So let's go ahead and look at the DIY versus DFY details for the short game. So when we talk about what of these things for short-term strategies could you actually do yourself, it's really quite simple, and a lot of what we talked about with the short-term is these do-it-yourself strategies. Getting your Google business profile set up. You can absolutely do that by yourself. Collect and respond to reviews. Do not be afraid to ask your customers what they thought of your service. And you know what? Yes, you might get a negative review in there at some point. What matters more than getting a negative review is simply how you respond to that review and handle it and show the world that you're taking care of that with your customer. Do it yourself, establish a social presence online. Get online, just be active. One of the questions I get the most often from people is, okay, if I want to start and make sure that we're showing up on social media, what's the first thing that I should do? Well, are you consistently posting now? I don't care if consistent for you means once a week. If the answer is no, that's your first step. Establish a presence and just establish consistency. And then do it yourself. Check out your local directories. Talk to your chamber. Talk to your local associations. Check that your information is correct on places like Yelp and Yellow Pages. Do as many people go to those anymore? No, but some people do, otherwise they wouldn't exist. So it's important to make sure that you are showing up accurately in those places. Now, on the done for you aspect of your short game is talking a little bit about the pay-per-click implementation and management. Pay-per-click, while a very important strategy, yes, it costs money, is most effective for you when it's done correctly. You could set up your own pay-per-click campaign. Yes, Google will walk you through how to do that. Odds are, though, it might not perform super well because you need someone who's an expert in that and knowing all the different types of campaigns to really help that perform well for you. The same goes for pay-per-lead management. How many of you in this room participate in a pay per lead or lead generation service of some sort? Okay, I see a few hands. Every single one of you either hires someone to manage that for you, or you do it yourself in your office. And you absolutely can do it yourself. But did you get into business to manage and dispute and take care of all the hours of your own pay-per-lead campaigns? Probably not. So done for you aspect of pay-per-lead is making sure that you're implementing the correct bid strategy for your leads, monitoring those leads, disputing them for you so that you can get your time back and focus on just doing the work, closing the jobs, and getting paid. Done for you, in addition, is the high-performing website. There are so many details that go into a website. I can't even get into it all now. But specifically, this is something where you really need someone who knows the inner workings of what Google wants to see and what has to be on a website for SEO for it to actually perform well. And then looking at the holistic strategy, you need to have good reporting set into place. There are great tools to do this, and there are also people that can help explain this for you. So that is the DIY versus the DFY aspect of the short game. In golf terms, we're going to look at the short game in terms of your putting, okay? You have to be able, when you get close to the hole, you have to be able to putt well to get that in there. I'll bring this all full circle, but that's where we're bringing this to, okay? Okay, now let's talk about the long game. These are the steady gains that happen when you are consistent in your strategy over time. So the goal of your long game here is everyone has a specific goal in mind. Maybe that's your revenue for the year. Maybe that's the number of jobs you've brought in. Maybe that's an employee count or how many leads you've closed or a specific ROI, any of these details. That is the end goal that you are trying to get to. Long-term strategies are the pieces of your marketing that build on top of those easy wins that we talked about, that help set up your marketing for success, to build a legacy marketing strategy. So talking a little bit about this, yes, we do come back to SEO here too. There are basic SEO things and the quick wins that need to be set up to make sure that you're performing. However, most SEO should actually be considered a part of your long-term strategy. Why? Because it takes a long time to build good SEO. What does that actually look like? About a year ago, SEO Co., I'm pretty sure it stands for company, SEO.co, released a report on how long it takes a website after being implemented with SEO strategy to perform well in Google. They showed that the average length of time for a website that was already at least 2 years old was a minimum of 6 months, but more like up to a year. And that is dependent on the fact that you are implementing a consistent, good strategy that whole time and not changing it up. So SEO, comprehensive SEO, I see your hand, one second. The comprehensive SEO is a long-term strategy because it's something that you need to be consistent in and continue to do to truly get the long-term gains that come from good SEO success. Yes, do you have a question?
Yes. So even if I live in a smaller town,
Yeah.
probably like New York most veteran restoration company. Even with subpar SEO, though, what I tend to see is like a lot of the AI and a lot of like paid stuff that gets the top opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have good SEO because they're very new.
Correct.
So how does that work with what you just said? Like, well, okay, 6 months there, so.
If they're paying for that top placement, it is not SEO. So the best way to think about it is SEO is your unpaid results, the things that you are not bidding on. If you're seeing those things where it says like AI sponsored, pieces like that, that is because they paid for that to show up, and that would be why. especially in smaller rural areas. That can be really challenging because it doesn't take much to bid against people. Does that answer your question? Cool, you bet. All right, and then in addition to the time that it takes for SEO build, this goes beyond just the initial keywords of the services that you're providing in the area that you're doing it in. This is where long tail keywords come into place. Things like frequently asked questions. Things like if you live in a very specific area of your state, generally they have like a specific thing that they call that area. For instance, in Wisconsin, just a little bit southeast of where we are located, there is called the Fox Valley region. If you were not from Wisconsin or from that area, you would have no idea what that means. But if you live there, you're not searching restoration company in Appleton. You're searching restoration company in the Fox Valley because that's what they refer it to. And that is where those in-depth and long-tail keywords come into place. Ongoing, consistent keyword strategies that are implemented then into the next point of content. Content is the most comprehensive SEO piece that we can even discuss. I'm going to jump ahead to my next slide. In 2022, Google released one of its largest algorithm updates ever, called the Helpful Content Update. And it literally changed the way that Google ranked sites. It like flipped it on its head, a complete 180. Every single marketing company across the nation, I think, like pulled all their hair out within the couple of days of this happening because it was catastrophic. People who were ranking super well, all of a sudden were like completely down to zero. And Google doesn't tell you when these updates are happening. Generally, they release about 2 to 3 major updates on their algorithm per year. Fun fact, how many, if you've heard me speak before, don't answer this, how many updates do you think Google actually releases per year related to search at all? 2 to 3 major ones, how many total? Just throw out a guess. 4. 320. The number is actually 4,800. So it's crazy to know that 90% of these updates, you would have no idea that they're updating these details. But there are 2 to 3 every year that completely change the algorithm up. And the one in 2022, the Helpful Content Update, was one of the largest. And it focuses, rather than this like list of keywords that would be on a site, now it focuses on how users actually engage with the content that's on the site. Now, I have some screenshots up here of some dog breeder websites. I think personally these are like the best examples of websites you can get up here. And I couldn't find the really bad ones that I was thinking of, but generally, this is like what we all used to have websites that look like, right? They were pictures, it was a little bit of content, some base level links, and that was it. That was all you needed. You just needed to have a website to be able to show up. These sorts of websites, you cannot function this way anymore because they don't have the foundational details in it. Some of these have a few paragraphs of information, but if you dig around on these websites, that's it. And this is the prime example of what Google does not want to see anymore. You cannot just have a website without having engaging content related to your keywords and your area and expect it to perform. All right, so this kind of really brings us to the concept of long-term strategies for content. Beyond looking at content that's related to your keywords and your local area, a long-term strategy of content is regularly releasing engaging updates. Blog posts that are user-focused. For instance, if you're in home services, one of the questions that I've seen often is, I have this spot on my carpet that I cannot get rid of. It's from a pet for how many years ago. What do I do? If you get that question a lot, odds are someone's probably researching that also on Google. Write an article about it and put it up on your website. And then make sure it's set up for SEO success, and Google will be able to see that and help it engage better in the way that people actually want it. Content is important when you are writing it based on what the user actually wants to find out, Write it with the intention to actually give them an answer, not just promote your services. That's what Google wants to see. User-focused content, not company-focused content. So this is where things like blogs come into play, case studies, because you're offering great information, but you're also showing your expertise here. And then leveraging your website and your socials to help release this information, obviously on your website, but then use the socials to get backlinks coming back to your website and build that good strategy. Okay, so quick case study review here. An Ohio-based restoration company came to us in 2019. We've been working with them ever since then, and they had absolutely zero leads that they were getting from their online presence. This is what you can see of their actual traffic to their website. And the reason I bring this up is because, first of all, we worked with them over the course of several years now to implement and continue long-term marketing goal strategies in place. And you can see the success that they've had here. Obviously, yes, there's going to be some ups and downs. That's expected. You would never see a straight line in performance of a website or SEO. It will never be just static. That's not how Google functions. However, in addition to these ongoing strategies, this company also focused on personal, in-person, boots on the ground efforts that brings everything full circle for the people in their community. Not only are they doing long-term, engaging marketing campaigns, they're also out in their community showing their culture, showing who they are as a company. And to date, they now get more than 50% of their leads online coming from zero in just a couple of years. So this is a huge example of this company and how they implemented these things very, very well. Okay, so now let's go to the DIY versus the DFY. Yes? So I didn't actually put the bar underneath this, but generally on these reports that I pulled this from, right underneath it, they actually have little Google icons that show exactly where all of the updates are. This one is looking at, obviously like, I think January 2012 all the way up till now, so there were far too many little Google icons to put in there. But yes, I mean, it is very interesting to see the drops, and it'll note, we use a tool called SEMrush, S-E-M-Rush, and it'll note for you, here's where a Google algorithm change happened, because it helps you know, is it a strategy that was implemented and didn't work? Or did Google change something and now we have to go back and figure out how it was sort of penalized for it? It is very interesting. Great question. Okay, so DIY versus DFY for long-term strategies. So what can you do yourself as it relates to long-term strategies? Ongoing content creation. Every single one of you knows what's being asked of your company on a regular basis. Someone's calling in and asking your company a question. Write some information about that and put it on your website. Continue ongoing content creation. Work through a backlink strategy. Can you be a guest poster on someone else's website? Can you get your company on a local station or in a local publication? Can you be on a podcast? Get some areas where you are building a culture and showing that in your community, which goes to the next piece of the most important thing that you can do as a company for long-term strategy is boots on the ground. Be present in your community to show people why they should work with you. Do you have great reviews? Yes, you do. But if they know you and you have great reviews, how much more likely is a consumer to actually choose you? And then show your business culture and your brand reputation through all of those things. This goes back to that case study that I showed. They are now known as one of the top restoration companies in their metropolitan area because of just how active they are in the community. People know who they are and they trust them because they see them everywhere. In the done for you aspect here, long-term strategies, this is really where it's so extremely important. I cannot stress it enough to get an expert in to help you with these strategies, especially because when you talk about long-term SEO, you can't implement something, expect to see a change in 1, 2, and 3 months. You don't see the change, then you change everything up again. Well, guess what? You've just started your clock on a consistent strategy all over again for Google to see. They want consistent strategies in place. So you need to have someone that you can trust that's in your corner to tell you, hey, here's the algorithm updates that are taking place. Here's what we're going to do. Hey, we really want to see this out in your local community. Can you get some information about this that we can add on your website? Find a company that you can partner with that are experts in implementing this long-term strategy for you. In addition, while you can do some content creation based on the things that people might be asking you, you need to have an expert who can write content based on user engagement and what a user wants to see that is also specifically optimized for how Google wants to see the keywords in that content. You can't just write content, expect it to show up for something if you aren't also looking at the way that it relates to what people are actually searching. Back-end SEO targeting, again, I could spend way too long talking about all the nitty-gritty coding nerd details. I'm a website developer previously to what I'm doing now, so I say nerd because that's what I am. I can look at the code and talk about that forever as it relates to the SEO that has to be a part of the back-end code of your website that no one will ever see. But if it doesn't exist, Google probably won't see you either. And so that's where it's super important to have someone that can understand those details. In addition, looking to ongoing social management, having someone that can partner with you to help you not only do community-based posting, but also help you with long-term strategy goals. And then finally, understanding your brand foundation. I will not get on my soapbox too long here, but as I mentioned, I'm really passionate about brand, really passionate, because it's so important. You could provide a service all day long, but if you do not know why you are providing it, what good is that? Beyond your SEO, beyond your website, if you have a purpose and a foundation for your business based on your brand, your culture, your vision, your mission, who you are and who you're targeting, that will give you more purpose and more success in what you're doing than a pay-per-click campaign could give you any day. Maybe I'll put it up on our page later, there's a fantastic article that was just released by Search Engine Journal all about the non-SEO related things that specifically affect your performance online. And 90% of it talks about your brand foundation as a business. Kim actually sent it to me. She was like, I know you're just going to be so giddy that they released this article, because it's hard to convince people to understand, like, those things do actually have so much value. Okay, so bringing this back to our golf analogy here, long game, short game, you have to have both. And in marketing, the same thing goes. You have to have a balanced approach for something to actually perform well. So let's go back to this image that we started with here. You can see there's lots of different things happening on the screen, right? And I'm pretty sure you can see the hole down in the corner, it's very small. If you're starting at the far end, what do you first have to get to the hole? A driver. You have to have a good long game. However, what good is a big drive if you can't putt to save your life? It doesn't matter. And the same goes for marketing. What good is I'm going to reverse it. What good is a short-term strategy if you have absolutely no long-term implementation of your marketing tactics that will last beyond that lead you just paid for. If you are approaching your marketing by, well, I'll just pay for this lead at a time and this lead at a time, guess what? You're gonna just walk in circles the whole time. You will never get out of that game. But if you look at a balanced approach, you will approach each job that comes in the door with the importance that it deserves. And you will also gain long-term success by understanding that you have to look beyond that job here and now. I actually copied this directly from what my husband said because I loved it so much. And I said it here, but I guess I'll quote him. He said, "What good is a big drive if your mid-game is trash and you can't putt to save your life? Getting on the green is great, and two is great, until you 3 or 4 putt." And I think that really brings it full circle. You need both strategies to be successful in golf. You need both strategies to be successful in marketing. It's so extremely important. One is not more important than the other. Rather, it is a very unique balancing act. You need the immediate action. What are you doing right now that's closing jobs and paying the bills and keeping your lights on? But you also need the future planning. What are you putting into place to set you up for long-term success and a lasting legacy in your community and with your brand? I will say, on a personal note, I loved watching my dad do this, growing up in a restoration household. Everyone knows who Service Master is, but that was what I grew up in. And what I love more than anything else is that to this day, people in our hometown know that my dad ran a Service Master, both restore and clean side, but they know him more than that as the business owner that was super relational in the community. And that is building a lasting brand. Sure, it's a major franchise that really needed no help for someone to know their name. However, every single franchise has to build themselves a reputation in that. And I think that's a good example of how important it is for those things to happen. The last thing that I want to bring in here is that no matter how you look at marketing, yes, you need the balancing act between the two, but you also need flexibility and adaptability. Practice makes perfect, but absolutely nothing is a given. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is putting, even though it appears to be a gimme. And the same goes for your marketing tactic. You might have a super awesome reputation in your community, and what you need right here and now is some leads and your phone ringing. And we can implement every best practice in the book for you, but it doesn't technically guarantee a result. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. But I'm very upfront, and I'll be upfront with you guys. If any marketing company ever stands in front of you and promises you a specific result, run in the other direction. They don't have control over that. What they do have control over is setting you up based on Google's best practices, based on what has to be there for SEO, based on what will set you up for long-term success. How Google actually performs with that is out of any marketing company's control, even if they're following all the best practices in the world. If I could control how Google resulted in things, man, I'd be like the richest person in the world, but I'm not. I have absolutely no control over that. What I do have is a fantastic team who is experts in their area and will set you up for success and will be in your corner if something doesn't perform. No company is perfect. Like I said in that graph, you're gonna see dips in your marketing. You're going to see things not perform 100% all the time. And quite honestly, that's how it should be. There's gonna be lulls and highs in the season of restoration and home services. And it's important to understand that your marketing will reflect that too. It's not always a reflection of your marketing company, but it's important to have someone that you can have those open dialogues and conversations with. All right, so let's recap. We talked about the long game, which are the short game, which are the quick win strategies. A lot of this is the DIY. You can set these things up for yourself and get started on a good building block that you can build other pieces on. Then you have your long game. This is that ongoing piece that is so important for a lasting legacy of your business, for lasting success. And we talked about the need for a super balanced approach with these. The reality is it all comes down to this. A holistic marketing approach is where the results are seen over time. And they will happen. Some months might be slow, but some months you might have more success than you ever dreamed of because of both strategies being in place. All right, so with that, I know I gave you a lot of information. I'm gonna put some information up here on the board, some QR codes. First and foremost, I love talking with people to simply understand, like, where's your marketing even at? I think it's really great to be able to show those reports where you can see the Google updates and you can see how things are performing. Have you had a drop? Is there something at play? So if you want, here's a QR code. You can simply schedule this or scan it, and it'll drop you directly on my calendar for absolutely a no commitment conversation, just about where things are at for you. The other QR code next to my face will give you my direct contact information, as well as links to my email, my phone number, all of my socials. And then down in the corner, just my shameless plug, is a QR code that will lead you to my podcast website to tell you a little bit more about the episodes and who I interview on those details. We are running, just as a quick side note, a show special while we're here. First of all, I'm happy to kind of show you some website or performance results here while we have time, but we are running a special to get some money off of website redevelopment if you need to kind of rebuild your quick win foundation. So that is up there for you as well. I think we have time for a couple questions. Yeah. Yeah. Say that one more time. I mean, that was really intentional. But thank you. I can't say I was around at our company when that logo was created, but maybe we should start tying that one in. Any other questions? I will note right up here on the table, I have my business card if you want a hard copy and a couple papers, a case study, and then something that just shows everything that we do as a company as well. So you're welcome to come grab that. Did I see a hand back here? Yeah. Yes, backlinks, great question. So backlinks are add to the credibility of your domain or your website by having other places online backlink to your website. There's a lot of varying opinions. Backlinks used to be very common for people to purchase backlinks. Please don't do that. That will actually hurt your website and your overall performance. It actually can lead to Google completely putting a permanent stop on any traffic to your website if they see that that's happening. A backlink strategy is very important. It is very much a DIY strategy. That is where things like guest posting, being on a blog, being a part of something in your community where they can tag you online, not like tag your social profile, but link your website from theirs back to it. It is a slow strategy that should be built organically by being out in the community, by doing things, and then building it slowly from there. I have seen a lot of companies, for instance, that Ohio company that we showed that case study on specifically, one of their leaders also has a very big like social influence network herself on a personal brand. And so she does a lot that ends up backlinking to her company's website. And that's grown a pretty big presence there too. Does that answer your question? Cool. Any other questions? Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today. If you have any questions, booth 204, otherwise just hop on up here and let me know. Thank you.